Welcome to Feel Good Talk, where our focus is on mind, body, soul, and business. You are now tuning into Let's Talk About It, and you have your girl Izzi Meditates and my girl Colette Victor White, who's joining us today. Hey, Colette.
Hi.
We are hanging out together. Kendra is doing her thing. She's moved on, and we support her 100%. So while she's getting everything together with her move, I decided to have Colette come on the show with us today. How's your week going, girly?
It's going good. Busy as always. So
Yes.
I have my girlfriend here. We've been friends for about 38 years. We
Oh,
haven't
wow.
seen each other in, I don't know, 20 or 30
What?
years. And she's here for the weekend. Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's
So,
nice. Oh my goodness, that's a long time. I don't think I've ever had a friend that long.
yeah. How long have we known each other?
Oh,
Well,
it's
let's see.
probably, I want to say 7 years.
7 or 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yep.
It's
Well,
been
we
a long
have
time.
about 20, 40 more to go to catch up.
Girl, we're gonna hold the hands and canes.
We are. You got that right. We're gonna be in the same home.
I know, right? I love it. Yeah, it's been a crazy like last 2 weeks. I'm totally into like the moons and stuff like that. And so I
Yeah.
think the full moon has something to do with all this craziness that's going on. It's just keeping everything like super, super busy. But I this week I just kind of chilled out because I was in kind of like a funky funk mood and
Yeah.
just decided to relax. Today I got some sun. I know this might sound crazy, and since Kendra's not here, I can continue to talk about my little side talk for a second.
Okay, let's do it.
So today I go out and I sit on the deck, and this is crazy. I don't wear foundation and I don't wear bronze. So I lay in the sun so that I can bronze. So I'm out in the sun. My ankles weren't important this week. This week, my face and my neck.
Okay.
I focused on that. So that's what I did today. Kind of had
That's
some
nice.
coffee and chilled out.
Well,
Yeah.
you've had some hectic weeks, anyways, between graduation
Oh, I know.
and birthdays. So, right?
Yes.
So you needed a
Yes.
down day.
I
Yeah.
mean, I pretended that I was on the beach chilling for a minute.
Well, you could be, but you gotta
I
you gotta
know.
get here.
I'm just gonna
So
move in with you. You gonna let me pay you rent if I
yeah,
stay
yeah,
there?
you can just come live.
Thank
Well, I'll
you.
just tell Victor you don't need to pay rent.
I appreciate
Right?
that.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Just bring
Well,
cash.
today, guys, we are gonna talk about fear. And so the acronym that I have for fear is false evidence appearing real. And I like that acronym, but I want to say first, there are legit fears, like legit fears of spiders, legit fears of, like claustrophobia and things like that. And if you are dealing with those, sorts of fears, and you definitely need to speak with a professional about those issues. But today we're going to talk about the fear that we have that kind of holds us back from, like starting our own business, or the fear that people will look at us kind of weird if we sing a song in public, that kind of fear, you know. So for me, false evidence appearing real. Sometimes we see this fear way bigger than what it really is, when it's really not that big. Like I've always had a fear of people looking at me and being on camera. And here I am.
Right?
And honestly, if I had the choice to do it by myself, it would never happen. Chuck gave me the opportunity and he's like, why don't you do it? And then everybody's like, go ahead, just do it. So I just did it. However, sometimes I'll have that fear where I'll think about it too long and then I won't venture into doing what I'm supposed to do. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Because it will
Yeah.
cripple
So
you. It'll cripple
right,
you. Right.
right. So we're talking about that kind of fear, false evidence that appears to be real, that if we just stepped out on faith or just jumped into it, that we would be okay. So
Right.
I don't know if you want to start. Do you want to talk about maybe some fears that you might have, or are you facing any fears like now?
Well, yeah, I have a lot of fears.
Yeah.
I've been working through them. We talked about like some of my fear comes from trauma. Now there are two different
Yeah.
things, because the trauma is the actual event, but the fear comes from the
Right.
event.
Yeah.
So from losing my oldest son, I now have a fear of letting my other adult children out of my
Yeah.
sight. I
Right.
have a fear that something will happen to them. And
Yeah.
it was becoming crippling.
Yeah.
So, I did, for that fear, really had to get help to learn how to work through that, because
Yeah.
it wasn't just crippling me. My fear was actually making my children fearful,
Yeah.
and then it was crippling them. So it's really good when you have a fear, like that, to
Mhm.
talk about it and kind of work through it,
Right.
because the last thing I'd want to do as a mother is make my children fearful, because
Right.
I want
Right.
them to enjoy their life, you know.
Yeah.
And I do actually, you said spiders, and I do have a
Yeah.
fear of spiders from an event that happened to me when I lived overseas.
Yeah.
So a lot of mine have come from actual events,
Yeah.
but I'm learning to talk about them and
Right.
not be fearful of what people will think of me because of my fears.
Yeah.
And I'm learning to work through them. Like, I hadn't flown for a while, and I started to
Yeah.
get
Oh.
fearful of flying.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but I conquered it, because you saw me in Virginia a few
Right.
weeks ago, a month ago, and I
Yeah.
flew to Virginia. And
Yeah.
what was funny is we let it cripple us. But when I was actually on the plane, it was ridiculous that I was
Yeah.
even fearful of it, because I
Right.
actually remember enjoying flying from when I was younger, and
Right.
how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So,
I think
right?
that sometimes the fears that we have kind of manifest into other things.
Well, they give us
I have a
anxiety,
Yeah,
right?
and it turns into things. And for me, it's I had a fear of driving back roads
Yeah.
at night and getting lost. And I'm like, where is this coming
Well,
from?
that is scary. That can be,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Where
and
was it coming from?
yeah, like where is it? Where is this coming from? And like you, I've had trauma, and the trauma for me was
Right.
being robbed at gunpoint
I remember.
as a
Yeah.
cashier. And so that created a PTSD that I have to deal with. And so it's
Right.
that fear, but mine had turned off into, you know, you can't stand too close to me because I'm thinking that you're going to either roll up on me with a gun, or, you know
Right.
what I mean? Or something like that.
Exactly.
And then there was the fear of the back road things, which I found out through, talking with a therapist, that, hey, that's manifesting from that fear
Right.
that you had to deal with, and that trauma of being held
Right.
at gunpoint and not knowing what to do. You know what I mean?
Well, and I
And so,
think what people don't realize is that one fear creates several other fears.
right.
Right? It's like a
Small,
ripple effect,
like
right?
smaller ones, like you said. And for the plane thing, I haven't been on a plane for a while, but I noticed that I'm so comfortable driving in this community, and I do Route 28. Now, Route 28 is
Right.
kind of rough. Most people drive Route 28, if they're not from here, would be like, I'm not liking this road. It's two
Right.
lanes. You can't get off.
Exactly.
My thing is, I was telling you, I got on 66 and I was like,
Oh, well, it's
because I hadn't
crazy.
gone on 66
Right.
forever. That it was more lanes and it was a lot going on. So it's just like,
I know.
so that kind of fear was just kind of going into like these little sub fears, I guess, if
I
you can
guess
call them.
it kind of manifests into something else, right?
Yeah, into something else completely.
Right.
So I have a quote here. I wanted to say this: fear is an important human emotion that can help protect you from danger. So it's natural to have that fear. If you don't have fear, you would walk around and something would happen and your, spidey senses wouldn't be up. So it's important, that we continue to have some type of fear because it protects us. It prepares us to take action, but it can also lead to longer lasting feelings of anxiety.
Right.
Finding ways to control your fear can help you better cope with feelings and prevent anxiety from taking hold. And it's just like you said, you had to realize that this is an issue. I need to talk to someone about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then
Exactly.
just kind of move on from there. Um, so for my experience, not such a deep fear, like something as serious as we were talking about, is I always had the fear of not being understood.
Yes.
And that's a
Yeah.
simple, and so when it came time for me to speak or write or communicate with someone,
Right.
I would become nervous about it because in the back of my head, I'm like, they're not going to understand what I'm talking about. And
Right.
I'm going to be misunderstood. And so for a long time, that was a big fear that held me back from doing podcasts, from
Right.
writing, from communicating with
Exactly.
people. Yeah. So, I had to deal with that and say, okay, everyone speaks on their level and I'm fine.
Yep. You
I'm
are.
okay.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's not like I was just taking it to some extra level. And then when I just did it, it was like, okay. Or I would ask, did you get my point? Do you understand? They'd be like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So
Right.
that made me kind of feel,
Better.
better about that. But that's a smaller type of fear that we deal with. And I feel like we have negative self-talk that stops us from going and following our passion and our dreams.
Right.
And that goes back to the false evidence appearing real. And it's completely false. People
It is.
understand what I say. I don't
Right.
know.
And it
Right.
keeps you from living. I mean, honestly, right?
Yeah.
You'll have regrets later because you let this thing or
Right.
emotion get so big that you talk yourself out of it, right?
Right.
Like I
Right.
remember when we did our first podcast, I was
Oh no.
literally trying to talk. Remember, I was trying to talk myself out of it because I was so fearful. And the thing is, I didn't even know what we were going to do, and it
Right.
wasn't that difficult, right?
Right. Right. And it's but you can agree with this, and then I'll go to comments. The first time, I can't even lie. It is terrible. It's, the anxiety is there and you're like, oh
Right.
my gosh, I hope it goes right. But after you're on like the 10th Zoom and the 10th live, it's
You're like,
not as
whatever.
bad. Right. It's not as bad. Like I get a little frantic in the beginning, but then
Right.
I kind of mellow out a little bit. Whereas though when I first began, I was like completely frantic. And then, certain things to do, certain things to say, the lighting,
Exactly.
you learn all of
Exactly.
that. And then
Right.
everything works out pretty well.
It does. We've had some good podcasts,
Yes,
you
yeah.
and I, and
Oh yeah, we had some
Kendra.
funny ones. I won't bring up that one. We
Yeah.
have we have 5 comments.
All right. Let's see what we got.
Let's check out our comments. Let's see what everybody's talking about here. We have Charles Brakely in the house. He says, "Good evening, ladies. Hello,
Good
Chuck. How
evening.
are
Hey,
you?"
Chuck.
Brian Nichols is in the house. What's up, Brian? He says, "What's up, Queens? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by."
Yep. Thank you.
We have Roselie Moses. Good evening, everyone. Hello. Nice to
Hey.
see you. Roselie Moses says, "Yes, me too. Spiders
Oh
and my
yeah.
sons." Oh, and her son passed. I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's very, very hard.
I wake up and I will just say, "Baby, you hear that?" to my daughter who is 26 now. Yeah, the spiders. Colette and I are really close, and I used to like send her
Oh,
all kinds of real live spiders. But now that I know this is like actual like fear, I don't try to send them as much.
I know you would be sending them to me, actual big spider pictures, and finally I had to say, Izzy, I'm really afraid of spiders.
I know. I'm so
So
sorry.
it is
I just
really
like to
hard.
freak people out when it comes to stuff like that all the time. Charles Breckley says, "Izzy must have watched The Wrong Turn." Leave me alone. You know what? When you come
Yes,
down here, I'm
Chuck.
gonna take you on some of these back roads. You're gonna see.
Yeah, don't go with her.
It's dark at night. We don't have
It
street
is
lights.
really.
Yeah. Charles Breckley says, "You have to watch the thoughts you put into the universe." It is so
Oh, that
true.
is true. Yep.
That is
That's that
really
thing.
true.
That's that thing I was talking about making my own children fearful because
Yeah.
they're feeding off me because I'm afraid, right? And I'm
Yeah.
thinking in my head of all these things that could go wrong. And then
Right.
I'm making them think of all these things that could go wrong. So not only am I living in my own fear and
Yeah.
anxiety, I'm creating it for them. It's
Right,
terrible.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really careful about that because I'm not really a plane person and I've gone on planes before and I really didn't develop a kind of like a semi fear until September 11th happened.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
yeah, that kind of made me nervous after that. But I don't talk about that in front of my kids. I allow them to have their own fears instead of having mine and theirs.
Right.
And
Right.
so what I noticed is because I did it that way, they inspire me and push me to face my own fears.
Yeah.
Do you know
That's
what I
good.
mean? So
Yeah.
my son and my daughter are not afraid of planes. So if I'm up here freaking out about planes, they're gonna be like, "Mom, it's okay. Come on, we're good."
Right.
And they
Right.
kind of push me to, to go ahead and do certain things that I'm nervous about. So I'm happy. And then there's sometimes I'm just like the COVID thing, I'm a little bit edgy on that. So I know for sure I'm pushing some fear.
Well, and that's because the media is making people fearful.
Yeah.
So, and we're not, there's factual things and there's non-factual things. So
Yeah.
you really, if you want to learn about it and get rid of the fear of it, you need to go to the factual sites and
Right.
get the
Right.
real facts and then go from there.
Yeah. So it doesn't, I think I'm like, my kids are going to be germaphobes by the time I get done because it's like when
Yeah.
we go outside, wash your hands, put the hand sanitizer on, wear the mask, put this on. They're like, "Mom." So now we're, a year or so deep into this that they know what to do. When you come out the store, immediately put hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, poor Cass, she's gonna be like, super clean when she gets older.
Yep, her hands are she's gonna have no skin on her hands.
I
No skin
know,
hairs.
right? From like the hand sanitizer.
But here's you don't want her to overwash her hands anyway. So
I know.
it's
I
hard.
don't want her to. I
Yeah.
know. I was told once, they told me that I had a class at a school I worked way back many years ago when Caleb was little, and they told me that I over cleaned the classroom. But I was just trying to keep everything so neat, and she's like,
Right.
"No, you got to allow some of the like natural germs to
You
exist.
do. Yeah.
You're cleaning them way too much, and you're gonna make them sick, and then they won't be back."
Well, I used to think that with the COVID thing, I was thinking that, everybody's staying inside, everybody's got a mask on, everybody's overwashing. And we're
Right.
basically, to me, it's obscene that we were breaking down our immune systems because we
Right.
need some of that dirt.
Right.
I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
my mother used to say, my kids ate so much dirt growing up. That's why we're healthy, knock on wood, right?
Yeah, I'm nervous because I had like my kids climbed all over me. So whatever they had in school is what I would get. Colds wise,
Right.
flu or whatever. But I haven't been exposed to any of that for almost 2 years now. And so I'm like, dude, when I finally go back out, really, I'm gonna get like we have to start all
You're
over.
gonna have
And
re-exposure. Yeah.
right, re-expose. I'm not excited about that at all.
Yeah, that's true.
I want to stay in like a what didn't Michael Jackson have a bubble? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Is it just me or is that serious? He
His
did have a
oxygen
bubble.
chamber.
Yeah, it was like a chamber or whatever. I'm like ready to go into one of those.
No, we can't let you. That's fearful.
So I'm going to ask everyone in the audience to think about a fear that you have. If you feel comfortable sharing it, to let us know if you have a fear. And if you do have a fear, how did you overcome it? I have here, fear can put everything to a halt, or it could be a driving force. So, and
that's true.
Yeah, it can put everything to a halt. So me not liking to drive back roads. I don't like going to Shenandoah. I don't like going to Luray. And so anytime my kids want to do that, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Y'all go. You can go with your friends. But on the other hand, it could be a driving force. So if I'm afraid to speak in front of people, I have the ability to want to go first. The teacher will say, who will want to go first? And I'll say, yes, I want to go first because I want to get it over with, number one. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I want to be the very first. So for me, I can have fear control me in a way where I am too scared to do it. And then I can also allow fear to push me to do it even more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But the thing is when you tell them no about those areas that they want to go to, you're missing out on the memories.
I know.
Right? So
I know.
you have to go with someone else the first time, right?
Yeah, right. And see how it works out.
What
was the name of that book with the Plexus Convention? I should have written her name down.
Oh, yeah. I want to read that book too. Yeah.
Yeah. This young lady had multiple fears. And what she did was she decided to write a book and to face these fears. I want to say it was 100 fears that she had. So she made herself every day conquer a new fear.
I think every single day. I think it's a good idea. Like now that I conquered the flying thing again, I'm not thinking in my head that, we can't go there because we have to drive and it's so far.
Right.
I'm thinking, yes, we can definitely fly.
Right.
So, right.
And I'm the same way. I was like, dude, if I'm going to see Colette, I'm going to catch a train or I'm going to drive. But your location is going to push me to catch a flight. There's no way. Like it would take me so long to get to you if I did it my way because I'm afraid that I would miss out on time. You know what I mean? I could stay an extra couple days if I do it the airplane way, or if I were to drive, then I'd miss out, So
that's the truth, because that's what I thought about the flying too. I was like, well, if we drive, I'm going to lose 2 whole days. Right. And I only have 6. So, right.
There's none left. Right.
It's a lot nicer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think you have to, if you don't have someone to talk about your fears with, sometimes what I do is I actually write down what I'm fearful of now, kind of like a little journaling. And then I write down why I would feel that way. And then that kind of helps me, kind of break it down a little. And then to really talk to myself about if that is an actual fear or if
Yeah.
it's just something I'm creating.
Right.
So, right?
Right. And then you have to be able to trust the person. Like, I trust you to tell
Oh,
you about my
yeah.
fears, because you can tell some people about your fears and they will shame you. Shaming is not going to help at all.
Right.
Shaming your children about their fears is not going to help at all. It's going to
I
make
agree.
them more fearful, or even forcing them. I've seen sometimes where
Yes.
parents have just said, "You're going to do this."
Yeah, I
And the
don't agree
child,
with that. I think
yeah,
that
and the
it
child does it, and all it does is create bigger fears later
exactly.
on in
Yeah,
life. Yeah. That's a
exactly.
serious thing.
It truly is. So,
So I have a quote, a couple quotes, but I'm going to start with this one. The first, I love Eckhart Tolle. His quote is: "Fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of being hurt, and so on. But ultimately, all fear is the ego's fear of death and annihilation." And that's a pretty deep, like, that's really deep when it gets into fear. It's fear can go back to childhood traumas. Fear can go back to embarrassment in young adult. Um, it can
right.
go back with family issues, and
Exactly.
sometimes we don't even know, like,
Right.
where it's coming from
Right.
exactly, to even pinpoint where to even begin. Because
Exactly.
it's so embedded in
Right.
ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just like when you first have a your baby and he or she is about to walk, and you're like, no, don't do this, don't. And so it creates this box around your child. And I've
Right.
learned to say, instead of saying don't do that, how about you try it this way, or how about you try it this way, or a lot of times we would slap our kids' hands. Don't slap their hands. It creates a fear in them, and they're afraid to touch and to feel things. So I had to, like, learn that, as a mom, to not put that kind of fear in our children,
Into
so we
them.
have to worry
Right.
about that when they get older. So I'm going to see if I have one more quote that I wanted to read. Oh yeah, that's a yeah, I have down, that was my biggest fear, was to be misunderstood. My next biggest fear, and I'll try to conquer it, is, this is easy. I know people are out there, but I can't see their eyes looking at me. My biggest fear is standing in front of an audience and, like, just talking about anything. Even when I do meditation, I keep my classes fairly small. That is like a huge fear, that I'll just, like, stand there and the words won't come out.
I'm surprised you have that fear because you're so used to being around people.
Yeah, and I
So,
don't I don't even know where it, like, stems from. So I'm comfortable talking to you. I'm
yeah.
comfortable in this space. When I'm super uncomfortable, it is very difficult to understand me, because I begin to just chatter, 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 to
Right.
fill the air, um, the space with talking, because I'm afraid of the silence. I don't know why. We'll have
I
to
know.
dig
I
deep.
think silence bothers a lot of people, though. I think
Yeah.
as you get older, though, you start to become okay with that. Like, you know how when you used to be like, I used to fear being around people if I
Yeah.
didn't have something to talk about, right? Because you
Right.
wouldn't like that silent moment. But now
Yeah.
that I'm older, I'm okay with it. It's
Right.
not like it used to be. So
Silence is
you,
killer. Silence among two, just me and another individual that I don't know very well, my palms will sweat. But if we're in a group of 10 people and there's silence, but other people are talking, I'm fine with it. It's
right.
just the one-on-one deal where we're
Yeah.
sitting next to each other and it's so uncomfortable. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
squirming.
I know, but do you think that that fear, I think that kind of comes from our own how we feel. Cuz I'm
Yeah.
right. Do you know what I'm
I,
saying? Because
yeah.
I get that too used to. It doesn't,
Yeah.
like I said, it doesn't bother me as much anymore because I guess I'm more comfortable with myself. But
Right.
before I used to sit there thinking, "Oh my gosh, they don't like me. They're judging me."
Yeah, right, right.
Right? Yeah.
Right. And but
That's
think
hard.
I think it's because, and then we'll go to the comments, because we have a lot. False evidence appearing real. I've
Right.
had two or three people as a child tease me because I did something. Now I think the whole world's looking at me that way, but
Right.
it's false evidence appearing real. That's not true. There are people that love to hear me talk. There are people that learn from hearing me talk. But
Right.
because I've focused on just those two people, and there's a
Right.
trillion million people in the whole wide world, that's the false evidence that's appearing real. You know what I mean?
Right. And we have
Yeah.
to get over that fear because I don't care what you do. You're
Right.
always going to have that judgment from someone, right?
Yeah, right.
Something, and you're just got to have to kind of work past that one.
Yeah. We have a lot of comments. Oh my goodness. Okay, so
Let's
let's get
go.
on to the comments and see what's going on with our audience and our Feel Good Talk family. Let's see. Oh, we're waiting for them to come. Oh, there we go. Karen Dixon Brown is here. Hi, Karen.
Ooh,
She
hi,
says,
Karen. Love you.
hi. I think she's Michelle Polar who wrote the book. Yes, that's right.
Yes, that's the one.
And did the experiment. Yes, that's her name. I'll be sure to put that in the comments. That I love that she did that. And even I had a fear of trying that. A fear of getting rid of the fear. Because I was thinking to myself, I should do that. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that because then I would have to hold to it. It's not going to work.
We have to face our fears.
Yeah. Charles Brickley says he loves flying. Yeah. Charles is always on the move. Trevar Johnson's in the house. What's up, Trevar?
Hey, Trevar.
He says, greetings. How are you? Oh, there he goes. What's up, young buck? I'm going to hold you to that when I turn 50. Rosalie Moses says, ladies, I have to go. One of my dogs are sick. Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for tuning in. Please come visit us again. I hope your dog feels better. Karen Dixon Brown says, we all have to also understand that we will cope and deal with different fears in different ways. This is true. I do a lot of breathing techniques as well as daily working on doing something related to fear to help to ease it up. Example, driving, especially down certain roads after losing my son. Yeah.
That's hard.
That is super hard, super, super, super hard. And to hear that you have those techniques of breathing and just learning how to, sorry, there's a mosquito. We got mosquitoes going on here. It's driving me nuts. To deal with that anxiety that you're having. I love that. And we put ourselves down because we're like, oh, well, we're still having this fear. We're going to have this fear. You know what I mean? You're going to have these fears. It's not going to go away. We just find better ways to deal with it and techniques like Karen has, doing the breathing.
That technique Karen does. I do that too. I count down and breathe, inhale and exhale. Kind of like a little meditation because, honestly, that does work, especially when you have a high level of anxiety.
Yeah. Yeah. Charles Brickley says public speaking, if I'm not mistaken, is the number one fear for people. I know you got that right. I wouldn't know what to do if you were to just like, Chuck, if you were to be like, you know what, Izzy, I want you to be the spokesperson for Feel Good Talk, and I'm going to have you go speak in front of my company. I would not know what to do. And
he'll probably do it now. You should have told him.
Well, see, like here, I always felt like I had to know everything and not look at a paper. Right. And for me, that was causing anxiety. And that will cause anxiety if I had to speak in front of people, because I know that people, when they speak, they give eye contact. They're looking into the audience and they have it memorized. There's no way I would be able to memorize it. I'd have to have a piece of paper. Whereas though here, I can look at my paper and look down and you really can't see it. And so I've done public impromptu speaking and literally the paper was like this.
Now, I've done really well in public speaking when I had a corporate job, which is really funny. And it never bothered me. But when we first started doing these in the lives, I don't know why those bothered me. I started worrying about everything like, how's the lighting? Will I have a technical difficulty? Right. There were so many things, right? So it's funny.
Yeah. My thing is the kids, because they'll just pop up and say crazy stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm just, so I had to train them. Hey, listen, or Milo barking. But then I realized I began to watch like more people who were public speakers who were doing Zooms. Things happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Their dog runs across, or, like Mel Robbins, her son just walked by and she'd be like, come say hi.
I know.
And it was more of a, she's so natural with it. Yeah. They've had like full blown kind of like conversations where I'm like, oh, wow, that would make me nervous if that was me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Her number one dream is to be the number one podcaster.
Really?
In the world.
Yeah.
She's a very, very motivated, inspiring woman. I love her.
Yeah. She has
So,
so many things that she deals with that we kind of deal with, like with the anxiety and things like that. And
right.
she just continues to push. And she's real. I like the
Yeah,
fact
she
that
is
she
real. I love
tells it
her.
like it is. And she's like, hey, when she's having a good day, she's made up. When she's having a bad day, her hair
I
is like
know.
a hair.
Yeah. She's
she's
awesome. Yeah, she's awesome. I love her.
I love
So,
her so much. So I've got another quote before we go into, and this one also is Eckhart Tolle. It says, "Fear keeps us focused on the past or worried about the future. If we can acknowledge our fear, we can realize that right now we are okay. Right now, today, we are still alive and our bodies are working marvelously. Our eyes can still see the beautiful sky, and our ears can still hear the voices of our loved ones." And actually, that's Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm sorry about that. That was Thich Nhat Hanh's quote. And I love that because we're here and we're right now. And a lot of our fears do stem from the past, and they stem from worrying too much about the future because we're so worried. Like, we can't do anything about tomorrow, and we can't
right,
do anything about what happened yesterday. We can only do today.
right,
And sometimes we focus on that so much that we can't deal with today because we're
right. We
focused
miss
on the
today,
past.
right? We're so
Right.
worried about tomorrow, right?
Right. And
So,
focusing on
yeah,
what will happen. You know what I mean? When I
exactly.
first started doing these, I would be so like wound up and have everything in order. And then I realized that it's okay. Just relax. Let it flow.
Right?
How
Exactly.
it goes is how it goes.
Exactly.
And we're like in the moment. And it helps me beforehand to say, you know what? You're in good hands. We have a good team that works together. They're going to make
Right.
sure that we look good on TV.
Exactly.
And then I'm on with someone that I know and someone that I trust, and the audience is awesome. And I started thinking that way to kind of help me, get
Get
through
through it.
being as nervous as I usually am nervous. Yeah.
Well, this is
Um,
just casual, so it's so
yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. Everything. And I found myself trying to box everything in, even with the interviews. I'm like, hey, we're gonna have all these questions right here. This is what we're gonna do. But
Right.
when I let go and I just let it
When it's
flow for
better.
today, it was so much better.
Well,
Um,
and I think people have to realize it's I don't think it's really worth having all the fears and things because we're not even in control. I mean, I believe
right,
that. So
right,
we're not going to be in control of what's going to happen in 5
right,
minutes, right?
right.
So why not
Yeah,
just enjoy the present moment and do the
yeah,
things, cuz after you do it, let's be honest. After you do an interview or something that you're fearful of and you do it, you get this euphoric feeling
right,
that it feels so great because you kind of conquered it,
right,
right?
right. And
So
I
that
totally believe that if you, and I remember like when COVID first began, and I remember hearing other moms say, Lord, don't let my child fall. Because if they fall or they get hurt, we're gonna have to take them to the hospital. And there's more COVID at
right.
the hospital. That was like a big thing amongst moms. And I would see it on
Yeah.
like Facebook. We were probably like 3 weeks into COVID. And I kept thinking that. So Cass was on her scooter, scooting. And next thing you know, guess what? She fell.
So
Yep. So I've heard that whatever you put out in the universe comes back. It doesn't know if it's a negative or a positive. It just comes back
right.
in the thought of what you're thinking. So I was constantly on my mind. Even as she was going down the hill, I would tell her,
Right.
stop, be careful. Next thing you know, she just tumbled over and there was like bruises and everything everywhere. So, and
And there was
crying and
nothing you could
tears.
do, right? There was nothing you
There's
could
nothing I
do.
could do. Right.
So
So once I let go of that thought, and once I let go of trying to control that situation so she can
right.
stay safe. It's nothing I
Right.
can do with my kids, especially at that age.
Well, I think people like I wonder always wonder if people like myself who are very controlling have
Yeah,
more fears because we're
right,
trying to control everything, keep things from happening, and
right,
we think we can fix it or prevent it, and really we can't do that.
right. You
So
can't.
I wonder if we
Yeah,
might be more fearful because of the way that we're wired.
yeah. And I remember saying when I first had Caleb, I'm going to go where he goes. That's what I said. I said, if he moves to California, I'm packing up my
Yeah.
stuff and that's where I'm going. And they were looking at me like, you're crazy. And for a while, I said that. But then I realized that I'm not doing him any good. He has to go
Right.
off on his own. You know what I mean? And kind
Exactly.
of do his own
Right.
thing and learn, just like I had to learn. But I always felt like, even with Cass, I'm like, I have to be with her where she goes because I just felt like they didn't have street smarts like I had street smarts.
Well, right. But they do because they have all your values.
Right,
So,
right,
and
right.
you came here by yourself, remember? When you
Yeah.
went
I was
to Philly,
older
you
though. I
came
was
by yourself.
a little bit older. Um, and my brother, we're well, we're kind of both like outgoing in a way where we don't let certain things fear. Like I don't have the fear of moving and changing. If I
Right.
could right now, I'd pack up and I'd move to. My cousin is in Bulgaria. I'd move to Bulgaria. I have no problem with wanting to go in
Right.
places like that. It's just like the fear of like mountains. But I love Colorado. I'd love to live there.
Right.
But I just don't want to climb mountains. I just
Right.
want to. I
Exactly.
want to like look at them. I have this. I had to read. It was really awesome. So I have a really good friend who studied meditation with me. Her name is Stephanie Lynn, and she had made a post the other day, and it was just amazing. And she pulled the verbiage from a book titled "A Year of Positive Thinking." Daily inspiration, wisdom, and courage. And it's Cindy Spiegel. And so this is an exercise that she provided on her webpage. And it was interesting that it popped up a day before our podcast. So an exercise in letting go of fear. Fear prevents you from showing up in your greatest capacity. Instead of letting fear dictate your circumstances, use it to shift you forward into uncharted territories. Without judgment, list everything that you are afraid of, from the seemingly unimportant to the greatest fears. So she's saying in this exercise to list everything that you're afraid of on a piece of paper, and then choose 5 fears and decide on the action steps that you can take to move towards letting each fear go. Repeat as often as necessary.
Yeah, that's a
So,
great idea.
to actually write down the fears and then, like that week, say, hey, you know what? I'm going to conquer one fear. That fear is to take a ride to Skyline. Even if I get to
Right.
the entrance, because the entrance of Skyline is off the charts. It looks like it's gonna
Yes, I
you're gonna
know.
fall off the earth or something like
You're
that.
not going to, though. I've been there.
Yeah. And I think the issue with Skyline is it doesn't have guardrails.
Yeah, that's true. That is kind of,
Yeah.
scary in there when you go
It
around all
doesn't
those curves. Yeah.
have guardrails. So she's saying to write those down and then go ahead and conquer those. And I think that, that's an awesome idea to
It is.
try.
Well, that's what I was saying about, if you don't have someone to talk to about them, maybe
Right.
write them down because, sometimes when you really look at it and read it, you're like, wow, why do I even have that fear? I must have made that up. So, right. So, and it's a good way to work through it. I think your idea
Yeah.
is really great.
I never forget I was in a store and this guy was just too close to me. And I was just, Caleb is laughing at me because he already knows. Like, I'm like, dude, you need to back up. The poor guy just wanted to ask me a question about a product. But in my head, I had already like said he was going to snatch Cass. He was going to run with Caleb. You know what I mean? And I had created this huge fear to the point where I was almost ready to call security on him because he was a little bit too close. When in fact, he really didn't want to harm me at all. He just wanted to like ask me a
Right.
question. So my kids tease me about that all the time.
Well, that's because you had that trauma
Yeah.
when you worked at the store at a Food Lion, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was at
Yeah.
Food Lion. So I'm always like, really, I read everybody's body language when I go in a store.
Yeah.
Before I even go in the store, the parking lot, I'm making sure,
Well, I feel like again, this is where the media comes in and too
Yeah.
much technology. Because a lot of times everything you see makes you fearful. It talks
Right.
about someone being shot, shootings, robberies. So you become fearful of even
Right.
wanting to go to Target.
Right.
Right?
No, right. It's like,
So
and it's not that serious. Meanwhile,
exactly.
you're like all worked up when you finally get out the store. You're like, I made it. I
I did
survived.
it. Right?
It's not even that
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
It is craziness. So definitely, if you have a journal or if you journal at home, to be sure to write down your fears, maybe start with like one or two and then conquer them. And if you don't journal, just to jot them down and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to go out and try it. And if you try it and you get like halfway there and you change your mind, that's okay. Come back the next day and like, try it again. I know for sure that if I drive to Skyline, I'm only gonna get to the front. And then I'd have to come back and then try it again. And maybe I could walk around the Skyline Drive. And then before I try to drive.
Well, I have a question. How are you going to visit me in December?
Huh? That's
I'm up
different.
in the mountains. That house is way up in a mountain.
I know. I thought about that too. What I usually do, and this is kind of was on the subject, but to make myself feel, yes, please. Make myself feel comfortable. If I were to drive there, what I would do is Google it, memorize how the roads go.
Right.
Leave out at the crack of dawn when there's light.
Okay.
Because honestly, the biggest fear is being lost.
Yeah.
Or getting lost in the dark.
Well, where I don't lost. I mean, I think that's a pretty real fear. I mean, it is scary to get lost
without GPS. I've done that before. I've gone out to like Lake of the Woods and GPS just dropped. And I'm like, okay, I don't have a map.
Right.
What am I supposed to do next? So I don't know if had they changed that?
I don't know because I lose sometimes, when we go up to the cabin, we do lose GPS. So, but I have a route. I have the route you can take. That's not going to be too bad.
Okay.
I promise.
This will be my first test. Maybe I should record it so people can see.
Yeah, we should do that. Yes. I think this will be funny.
Yeah. They will be like, oh my gosh. Let me see. So we have a few comments from our wonderful audience, our Feel Good Talk family. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah. I'm like a totally different beast when it comes to that. Karen Dixon Brown says, yes, Colette, and I count up to 10 slowly to get out of my bed some mornings.
Me too. And doing I had that today.
I remind myself to stay strong and I got this.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we don't have to rush out of bed sometimes. We got to take 5 minutes, and 10 breathing in 10 times slowly just to be grounded to start the day.
Yeah.
At least. Charles Brakely says, I speak to big groups all the time. It gets easier the more that you do it.
Yeah, I
think it's easy for you, Charles, because you DJ too. So you're used to being in front of a lot of people.
That's true. But he had to start. He was probably nervous the first time.
Yeah. Karen Dixon Brown says, I love speaking live anywhere. Izzy, I'm going to plan something for you to join me. Oh boy. Are you going to hold my hand for me? Because Karen is like the bomb.com. Every time I have something to speak, I'm like, okay, Karen, because she can stand in front of crowds and she's fine with a little tiny piece of paper.
Yeah, and she's just really good at that. Karen is phenomenal at that. So
Charles Brakely says the more natural the conversation goes, the more transparent it becomes. It's true.
Yeah, that's very true.
It really is true. Travar Johnson says, for me, fear is good because it gives me something to conquer. Then after you get it done, you feel great. That's true.
That's what I was saying about that euphoric feeling, like when you hit a goal, it's like hitting a goal and you just feel good about it. And then that helps you conquer other fears because you conquered one.
Yeah. Every Thursday night, I feel good after this.
Me too.
I'm like, I made it through.
Me too.
I have another fear before we go to a commercial break. This was crazy. And I wish Heather was here and all the nurses that I used to work with. And my girlfriend, Christine, can attest to this. I'm afraid of needles, but it's weird. Like, you don't have to hold me down. I'll get the needle and I will get the blood draw, but I have to watch. So all the nurses are like, they first asked me, are you going to faint? I'm like, no, I'm not going to faint. They're like, do you want to look away? I'm like, no, I got to see. I want to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do at this. Yeah. So I watch them and I talk and then I'm fine. But my palms are like sweating. Right. I don't know why I'm crazy about, like getting needles. And so all these years, I've never had an issue with a needle. But one time I had a nurse draw blood. And I think she might have been a little bit nervous, and she moved the needle. And guess what happened? She didn't press it down with the little cushion thing, the little,
Oh, yeah.
it went shooting up, and I was like, oh, I was ready to call the ambulance. I'm like,
Oh my God. That's
yeah.
why you're fearful of it.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, it was terrible.
Wow.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
That and IVs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, and
I've had
that doesn't bother me. So,
IVs. Yeah.
I have a fear that I have, that I always have, and I work through it, and I still make myself go. Is kind of similar to what you have on the back roads. I don't like to go places that I haven't been to.
Yeah.
Because I don't. Yeah, right. It is kind of like yours, like with that whole GPS thing. Like
Right.
I'm like, even before we had GPS, I'd be like, have written directions, and I'm so nervous. Right? Did I
Right.
write that down right? Am I going to take a wrong turn? Right?
Yeah, and practice. I've had it run me into. I was in Manassas, and the GPS sent me to a rock quarry, like a dead end road, and I was like, "Oh no, this is terrible."
Yes.
And then so, oh my gosh, in the Beltway, that's just a totally different
Oh
story.
yeah,
And it's
I
so,
was on
and
there last month. It is terrible.
to try to get lost and find your way, because the streets are different. Here it's straight road, you go left, right.
Right.
But when you start getting into like, Manassas and DC and 495, it's never clear. It's like a puzzle, really. The
Right.
signs are going one way, and you're like, should I go that way?
Right. Right.
And my son's just like, well, follow the arrow. I'm like, well, the arrow's not clear. I can't fit. And then you have to
I know.
move
You have
fast.
to know how to read it, because
Right.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You have to
You have
move
to put
super
it on
fast.
map. Yeah.
You can't
exactly.
just, poke around. 66,
Right.
28, you can poke around here. Take your time. You cannot do that on 495. You can't do
Not
that
at
on
all.
Beltway at all.
At
So
all.
that's insane. But let's take our commercial break, and we'll come back. I have a few other things that I have to say, and we'll be right back.
Bye.
That is my favorite A game commercial. It is a natural supplement that is for men. Definitely, if you're interested in this particular product, you need to reach out to Chuck. He gives out samples, and it's an awesome product. That's for men, not for women. Eventually, they will have something that is for our women. Definitely need to check it out, especially with COVID being on the rise and all these different germs and things that are going on, to help build up your immune system. So I love that commercial. I like all the colors.
Me too.
I like all the colors. So before we end our session for today, I want to just recap on fears. Fears could be big, they could be small, they could be large. And don't feel ashamed to reach out for help if you have a fear. And it could be, something that was traumatic, like in our situation, or it could be something that's small. I believe that you should reach out to friends, family, or whoever you trust. And sometimes you're going to have to reach out to maybe a therapist just to talk about things that you're going through. And if you're anything like me, I like to try to do it myself first. You could try with, like Karen said, breathing. You could journal. You could meditate. Sometimes listening to music while you're in the middle of being fearful, or, having this particular fear. I have a ritual every Thursday before I get on. I listen to music loud. It could be anything, rap, jazz, whatever I'm feeling that day. And that kind of helps me to ease into, I do my hair. I watch a little, and I don't watch movies, but for some reason, me watching a sci-fi and then easing my way into the music and then going into the podcast helps me to be more at ease. with being fearful. Um, Talk to a friend. Make sure it's a friend that's going to understand the fears that you're going through, and someone that's not going to shame you for being
Right.
afraid or to push you into doing it when you're not ready, because that's just going to make everything 10 times worse.
Right.
Um, and like I said, therapy. Definitely reach out if you think that it's to a point where you're not able to handle it anymore. If it's causing you to not be able to enjoy everyday life, where you're losing sleep over it, you're constantly having these racing thoughts about it over and over and over again, and definitely want to reach out um, to someone
Like,
for help.
definitely
Yeah,
don't let it manifest. Right.
yeah. And
Right.
I
So,
yeah, if you it's tough though. Sometimes I think as children we've had these traumas and they've manifested over these years and years
right.
and years, and we have to come in contact with that and dig deep to try to figure out how we can face those fears as adults with our own children.
Right. Well, that's
That's
true.
another topic in itself, right?
Exactly, because later in life things resurface and
Yes.
they've manifested and they can come out completely in a different way, like
Yes.
creating a fear or anxiety. So, you really have to create kind of a safe area for yourself, a safe
Yeah.
space, someone like you said that you trust and can talk to.
Yeah.
So, and because it's not good to hold it all in, and sometimes you can't work it out yourself, and sometimes you
Yeah.
do need to get help. I'm like you. It took me, after my son passed, it took me over a year and a half to go to therapy when I
Yeah.
really needed to go way before that, because there's just some things that you have to talk out and get
Right.
help.
I think
So,
there's so many things around. People are just like, oh, well, I don't need therapy, or they're afraid or embarrassed, to
right,
talk to. I feel like talking to a therapist is awesome because number one, they don't know you,
right,
they're not biased, they're not going to take sides. They're basically
right,
just trying to help you see things um, in a better light and try to
right,
help you move forward and past the past and not into the future, like dealing with the
right.
right now, and
Well,
that's
and they're
really
not going to
important.
judge you. They're not going to judge you. They're
Yeah,
not
and
going
that
to shame
too.
you, and they're
Right.
not going to make you feel, dumb about your fear, because
Right.
it's something that's bothering you and you need to address it.
Right. Right. Definitely, for sure. Did you have anything that you wanted to add, or any advice that you would want to give to our Feel Good Talk family and everyone who's out there listening?
Well, I would just say that you should definitely get help if you have
Yeah.
something that's making you fearful, and you should learn ways to deal with it and kind of conquer it. Fear just kind of holds us back, and I feel like it keeps us from living our life vibrantly and fully. And I think
Yeah.
that that would be my advice.
Yeah. I would say to be transparent, even with talking about today, I had thoughts like, oh my gosh, if I tell people that, that I was diagnosed with PTSD, they're going to be like, oh, she's crazy. And for
Right?
a long time, I didn't tell people about it, but it was something that happened to me. And I'm okay with saying it now because it can help someone else. But there was
Exactly.
that fear of telling
Right.
people of my fear.
Well,
Even.
that's because people don't, mental health is frowned upon. So no
Yeah.
one wants to say that. We had that talk about
Right.
having trauma. And, I was so traumatized. I was just telling my girlfriend, my husband was like, you have to get help because you are severely traumatized. And I
Right.
was, but it's that whole stigma like, I don't want
Yeah.
people to judge me. They won't think I'm stable. And that's
Right.
not true. That's not
Right.
true.
Right. And when it comes to trauma, and not to get too deep to get back into it, the things that have happened to us, we didn't ask for. Like, I didn't
Exactly.
ask to go to work and for that person to come up and just say, hey, give me all the money out the register.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Exactly.
that's not my fault. So why should I be embarrassed to tell people that that happened to me and that caused the
Right.
fear? I am not Superwoman. I'm not used to having,
Exactly.
that kind of thing happen to me out of the blue in the middle of the night and then try to figure out, what to do. We have to stop shaming ourselves for these things that we're going through and just try our best to work as hard
Through
as we
them.
can to overcome them.
And we
And
have to
they,
stop worrying about people's judgment because those
yeah,
aren't your people.
yeah, I know, right?
Right? We've talked about that too. Those people that judge you and shame you, or, you know, think that, mental health is not good for
Right.
when you talk about it, those aren't your people. So,
Yeah. That's true. I'm going to look for this quote because it just came to my mind. And before we wrap up everything, and I think it was, I had to send a Coburn and Joshua Coburn. You know, they are my loves. I love them to death. And Josh had a post today and it says, "We all carry hurt. Be kind to everyone." We all carry things that we're going through. No one knows. No one knew
Right.
that went through what I went through, and no one knew that you had gone through what you had
Right.
gone through
Right.
at this extent, because now we're public, we're on live, and now
Right.
people know that what we're going through. But there are people that have been mean, or people have said certain things and didn't even know that I was carrying that around with me, or
Right.
carrying that anxiety and that shame and embarrassment. So his quote today was, "We all carry hurt." And that's what I want to leave us with. Be kind to everyone. Just
Everyone.
smile. Say
Exactly.
hello. Not everybody is
Right.
going to be like, you know what? Boom, I got robbed at the food line. I'm scared.
Right. Exactly.
You're
And
going to
that's the truth.
smile and try to go on with your life. But
Right.
inside, you're dealing with a lot. So be kind to everyone.
I
Yes.
agree.
We love you guys. Oh, before we go, if you want to connect with us, please reach out to us at LinkedIn at Feel Good Talk, Facebook at Feel Good Talk. We also have a YouTube channel. If you miss an episode, you can go back to our Facebook page, or you can check out our YouTube. Like and share it so we can help other people that are out in our community. And that is at FGT, Mind, Body, Soul, and Business. And then we're on Instagram at feel.goodtalk. And you can email us at feelgoodtalk113@gmail.com. And we have a website, which is www.feelgoodtalk.net. On there, you can buy our Feel Good Talk gear. You can email us if you're interested in being a part of this podcast. Make sure you reach out. We have availabilities to come on the show. We also have availabilities for sponsors. If you are interested in advertising your business, be sure to hook up with us. We got a nice reach, so your products, whatever you have to offer, can be reached way out there, and you never know, you might get new customers. So definitely hook up with us on www.feelgoodtalk.net. We also have live shows on Feel Good Talk. It's Feel Good Talk Love 101, which is on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. We have Let's Talk About It. That's us. Woo woo. Thursdays at 7 p.m. We have Williams World on Friday at 6 p.m. We have Jamila J's Girl Talk on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 p.m. PST. And then on Sundays, we have Gimme Some Sugar, Baking with Steven, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 p.m. PST. We also have pre-recorded shows on Feel Good Talk. It's Mindfulness Mondays with Izzi Meditates, myself, Mondays at 9 a.m. On Wednesdays, we have Words from the Heart with Shayna Gordine at Tuesdays at 9 a.m. More Life with Essential Oils on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. That's with Miss Kendra Moore. And then my daughter comes on Saturdays, Cassandra's Corner at 10 a.m. We have something for everyone every day of the week. It is a family podcast. These are topics that are family friendly, so be sure to share with others. We love to reach out to our community and share these topics, and maybe it could help someone. So don't be afraid to share. Yes, thank you, Colette, for coming
Thank
on with me
you.
today. You are always welcome here. Anytime you want to come on, it's always a pleasure. And of course, we're friends too, so that makes it
I
really.
know. Well, you know I love you and this show. So,
We're
love
missing
you, Karen.
Kenny Kendra today, because she's always, let's do our heart.
Oh, hold on. I can only do half because I don't have. Hold on.
That's
I
okay.
can't because I'm
That's
holding
okay.
my phone.
That's okay. We love you
Okay.
guys.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.